evening and welcome to This Happy Guru. My name's Kirsty Bentley Taylor. I'm here today joined by my special guest, Alexander Walker, who is a clinical hypnotherapist. I met Alex first in Thailand, where we were both living over there. And he was doing some teaching and stuff like that. I was refining all my yoga and what I wanted to do. And we kind of really met socially, which was really nice. But then since both coming back to the UK, we both seem to have picked up on a similar life path of just really finding our purpose in life to be able to help people. And when I began to see some of the work that Alex was doing, I was really impressed, really inspired, really hit home with me. And so kind of thought it would be really fun to bring him on as a guest and get him to tell you all about the amazing power of hypnotherapy, how he can help people relieve symptoms of things like anxiety and depression and gone for good. You know, he has a 91 to 96% success rate with his clients, which I think is absolutely fabulous. So say hi, Alex.
Well, hello. Good evening, Kirsty. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you for joining me. So you were first introduced to hypnotherapy when you were at university, right?
That is correct, yes. I was studying psychology and criminology at my university, and part of the course we sampled a group hypnotherapy session.
Did you have some sort of real response to that, or was it just sparked an interest? Or
I actually didn't have any response to it. From my recollection, I didn't. It was a group. It was just a gentleman talking to the group. He said you could close your eyes if you wanted to. He didn't really go into what hypnosis was. So I closed my eyes with the majority of people. And then halfway through, I thought, I feel a bit silly. There are people looking at me. So I opened my eyes and kind of dismissed it. We then had some tests at the end, some memory tests at the end of the class, and I answered everything correctly. And then he did something. He said, "Oh, and when I knock, you will forget the answers." And so he knocked, and I said, "No, I know all the answers." And then he said, "When I knock a second time, you will remember all the answers." And then he knocked a second time, and I looked at my page, and I said, "Well, I've already got all the answers. Oh, I forgot two." And then I thought about that afterwards. I thought, oh, that's nothing. I didn't really get the effect. I had some perhaps minor amnesia of the answer. That was a possibility there.
yeah,
It was a very fascinating experience for some of the other people in that group. They could hear sort of auditory hallucinations of a bee buzzing in their ear. And I was very intrigued by it all and really wanted to know about it.
yeah, because sometimes I've been reading about hypnotherapy. I spoke to Alex about coming on the show quite briefly, end of last week, I think it was. And I've been reading quite a lot about hypnotherapy. It's been coming into my life, just sort of dropping in from various avenues, and really sparking an interest. And one of the things I was reading about, actually, funny you should say about the buzzing bee sound, is that like when you're taking into different dimensions, there are different sounds within those different dimensions, which is crazy because you think you're opening up the mind. And do you ever worry about taking your clients in and not being able to kind of pull them back out? Or is it, is there anything that you worry about when you treat people, when you help people?
Well, that is obviously something that we safeguard against. We are very concerned about the client's safety. It is paramount, it's most important. And so we sort of, we coach the clients before we start any of the sessions. We set up certain safety aspects, safety nets, such as a favorite place of relaxation. If anything happens, any abreactions, they get like a traumatic experience memory, just come straight back up.
Yeah.
They can immediately go to that safe, relaxing place of healing and stay there until they're ready to come back out. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're always safeguarding their mental health.
Yeah, even before they go in, we say your unconscious will not accept any negative comments, will not accept any negative statements. You can open your eyes at any time. At any time, you can stop the therapy and get up and just deal with whatever you need to deal with as though nothing else has happened. And so we already prime the client before they go into that.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Know that you're in safe hands then as well. You can properly relax. Yeah. So you had this experience at university. What made you pick it up again? What kind of made you come back to it?
I think what most people when they get interested in hypnotherapy or hypnosis is the entertainment factor. They see that in the media, on TV, in the movies, and you look at it and you think, well, is that real? Is that fake? And then you sort of look into it. And I was really interested in the healing aspect of it. I'd seen it in movies and that sort of thing. It was a part of my degree. And I went on to work with children with learning difficulties and a lot of anxieties after university.
Yeah.
And I wondered whether hypnotherapy, I worked with other various techniques, and I wondered whether hypnotherapy would be really good in this certain area. I just felt, because I had a passion for psychoanalysis, which is all sort of unconscious sort of anxieties and sort of fantasy work in their minds of sort of nightmarish sort of traumas and obscure anxieties and phobias
Yeah.
that people have. And I just thought there was a lot more to it than the traditional CBT method, where you change the conscious thought, you
Yeah.
change the conscious behavior, and there you go. And
Yeah.
that's fine. It works for some people. Uh, but for me, obviously, I was really interested in the unconscious parts. I just felt there was a lot more to us than the conscious thinking and the conscious behavior. I thought there was a lot more to us than that. And getting somebody to relax to their deepest, most natural state was absolutely amazing when you can't or don't usually do it in your day-to-day life. To be able to
Absolutely.
do something so natural that anyone can do it anytime they want to, but they rarely have the opportunity to do it, just amazing to me. So yeah, so I looked into that based on the fact that it was something inside us that we could all do, and the wide application of it. It could
Yeah.
affect and help so many people in different and on so many different levels. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's accessing which part of the mind then, the subconscious or the conscious mind, or which part are you accessing?
Yeah, when you speak to the unconscious mind, some people may say the subconscious mind. Some people argue there's a difference, but basically the unconscious mind, the part that's not your conscious critical faculty, the part that's sort of behind you, the part that really does make all the decisions before you consciously are aware of it. Before you even make a conscious decision, your unconscious mind has already made that decision for you when it comes to your conscious mind. So we're talking about the unconscious that is there to protect you throughout this life. So all the strategies, all the hang-ups, all the phobias, anxieties that you may have are kind of like strategies that the unconscious has used to protect you from one situation, and they've carried on that strategy to continue to protect you. And all we kind of do is then speak to that unconscious and just try to work out a better strategy. And that's really what it kind of is. And it's a little more sort of future work as well. So you go into the future and you see yourself achieving what you need to achieve. And
So
yeah,
talking about, like you were talking then about the subconscious mind learning patterns that it within this lifetime that will basically protect you, right? That's as I understand the subconscious, that it's constantly learning, and if you feel something, it will change almost your mindset so that you can avoid that in the future if it's hurt you, if it thinks that it's bad for you. But what about, can you tell me, is the subconscious mind also subject to any previous life or past life or anything like that? Can you bring in learned behavior that you've learned from a previous life, for example? You know how we're saying now that, or scientists are saying now that through cellular technology and DNA research, they're beginning to find that the DNA doesn't just hold the structure of your genetic ancestors. It also can hold in their talents, it can hold in their phobias, things that they've learned, stuff like that, and also some tensions, anxieties, that sort of thing. Is that something also that can come through in the subconscious mind, do you think?
well, this is very interesting area, and you need to be careful about how you word this kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, there is some speculation as to ancestors not only passing on their genes, but also their trauma, their memories
Yeah.
into the DNA. There's some very interesting healing work where you don't just heal yourself, but you go into a sort of realm where you clear your ancestors' traumas as well. And for those people that are comfortable with that kind of thinking or believe that kind of theory, it seems to be very effective at clearing a lot of anxiety issues that regular, perhaps, hypnotherapy may not have been successful with.
Yeah. So as they've looked at just this lifetime, they haven't managed to lift anything. But actually, if you look into past lifetimes and trauma that's come in from another directive, you have more success.
Yes. I just need to be aware here that it's not necessarily true, but the client believes it to be true. So we're not expressing our own opinions here. They're coming to us with these opinions about where their anxiety, where their problems may be coming from.
Okay, so you're not leading them into that. You're not sort of discovering, as it were. This is something that they're coming through and saying to you, look, I'd like to go through hypnotherapy because I believe that the problems that I'm experiencing in this life I could be subject to actually past life trauma. That's
Absolutely.
what it might be from.
Absolutely, yes. And so we take them back to where, well, we do our best not to influence them.
Yeah.
So we really want it to be their experience because we don't know what they're going through.
Yeah.
So we take them back and we ask them to describe what they're experiencing. See what you can see, feel what you can feel, hear what you can hear. Tell me what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
And whether it's true or not, or whether it's just in their mind, or whether they are experiencing real memories, they will make these amazing revelations, resolutions to their healing, going back and experiencing sort of, I'm sure you've heard of this kind of thing before, sort of the moment of death in a previous life, experiencing like a gunshot wound in the shoulder,
Yeah.
then coming back and having that unexplained shoulder pain just lifted from their body.
Yeah.
Amazing stories like that. I mean, there's hundreds of them. There's thousands of them.
I have a similar story to share. I'm just going to answer this question quickly. We've had a question coming from the chat from a lovely lady called Samantha Kane saying, can hypnotherapy be used to discover past lives?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you can take them under and you can go back through. That would be a form of, that would be past life regression then.
That'd be past life regression. You would usually use past life regression in a therapy when the other techniques haven't been successful.
Yeah.
So, okay, do you think say it's a shoulder pain? Do you think the shoulder pain may come from somewhere else? Maybe from another time. And if they're comfortable with looking into that, then we can do that with them. There are some speculations or some theories as to whether it may not be their own time, their own past life. It may be a sort of collective unconscious that they go into and pick out a timeline that they can go into and work something out there. So basically, yes.
Fascinating.
The answer.
So I had an experience. I shared with you briefly the other day. I had an experience. I went and did some soul contract work with another friend of mine. And she basically kind of, I think, took me into I didn't realize she was doing it, but kind of into a hypnotic state, if you like. And I was just lying there thinking how lovely life was and how nice it was just to lie down for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, I couldn't feel the whole right side of my body. Like my shoulder was just, I couldn't lift it. I had no muscular movement at all from my shoulder right down to my right knee. So incorporating all of my right arm, all of the right side of my body, my right hip, my right side down into my right knee. I could still move my toes. When she asked me if I could move my toes, I could move my toes, but I couldn't move my knee. I couldn't move the top half of my leg, my hip, my shoulder. And I wasn't, first of all, this was the first time anything like this had happened to me before. I'd had past life regressions before and had very vivid awakenings. Like I woke up, I say woke up, but I came to crying from remembering my past life and from remembering the sadness that I'd experienced. And I had very, very clear visions of walking through a forest, specifically this time finding a battlefield. And I could hear this battle, and I was, I was in the middle of a forest, and I could hear this battle, and I was running towards the edge of the forest, and I was me, but I was completely different to I am now. So really tall, long, white hair, straight, quite sort of slim, like everything was long. My hands were long, my arms were long, Everything was long. My hair was long, and I was grey, so I was an older lady. And anyway, I went running through this forest and came to this massive clearing, and there was a battle scene going on there. And it was young boys and young men and old men and carts, horses, bows and arrows. It was that sort of time. No one was in armor or anything like that. Everybody was, on the floor with various things sticking out of them. And all I can remember, I just remember seeing their spirits leaving their body. As I was looking over here, I could just see sort of grey spirits. I thought that was leaving their bodies all over, and I was running from one person to the next, trying to find out if I could help them, trying to see if I could heal them, all that sort of thing. And the overwhelming sense of despair that I felt when I was taken back into this life. And that was actually my very first experience of past life regression. And I went in, I suppose, much like you did at university, quite skeptical. And I went with my mum and my sister. We'd gone to this big workshop with a lady called Denise Lynn. And I wasn't expecting anything. I was really quite like, oh yeah, here we go, a little bit woo. And just could not believe, like, my mum had a vision of being an eagle. My sister, I can't remember what she had. It was something about just pictures that she'd seen or something. Nothing, she didn't feel like she was another person so much, but she could see pictures and stuff. But it wasn't so clear. But I came out properly crying, like sobbing, and I couldn't stop for about 10 minutes. It was really, really intense. So that was my first experience. And then when I had this soul contract reading, this whole right side of my body just went really, really heavy. And then as my colleague began to sort of clear it, I became very, very aware of my right shoulder, there being this searing pain, like a real heat and a piercing feeling, not something like I'd ever experienced anything again. And to the point where I was like, oh, I couldn't breathe for the pain, in like when I was lying down, and it was just sort of happening to me. And suddenly as my awareness or whatever it was shifting, I just had this real searing pain that was going all the way through from my back through to my front here. And I knew I'd been shot by an arrow. And I looked around, like within my vision, because suddenly everything went from being quite physical to being quite visual. Is that normal? I wanted to ask you that. Is that a normal response, to come from almost a physical pain into a visual recognition of where you are?
Well, it sounds to me like that was the moment of trauma, and then your experience changed. We all have different levels of auditory, kinesthetic, visual. I don't know if it's normal, but it's not abnormal. I'll say
Yeah.
that. Your experiences are personal to you, and it's understandable that you go through the trauma. Then of course your body's reacting to it, so it wakens up another sense to sort of say, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
a reaction in panic, perhaps, but it's normal to change through modalities, the senses, through your experiences.
Yeah. So my first experience of it, for example, was the feeling of the pain. And then after that, it was kind of the conscious recollection of where I got that. I suppose the realization of what it was that happened to me.
Yeah, I think you said this was your first time as well, was this?
No, this wasn't. This was like my third. I've been through a fair few past life regressions. After that first one, now I'm almost like hooked, as it were. It's fascinating. But this was the first time that I'd had a physical response to it. Before, it had been visions, it had been memories. Like I said, I'd walked through forests. I'd walked along beaches. I'd also I'd recognized that I was a slave in what I believe was like ancient Africa, or some deserty, very, very dry, maybe the Middle East, something like that. And I was a tall black woman. I knew I was in slavery, and I was with a lot of other people. And there was just this feeling of just being really, really oppressed, like a huge weight all around me. That was, I think, the feeling that I came out. I just felt like so weighed down with everything. But I didn't really, it didn't really come to any sort of conclusion, that story for me. It was just this feeling. It was actually quite fleeting. So then when I went in and had this experience, it was much more vivid. Like I said, it came with this sort of shooting pain. And then as I went back again and did some more work, and I've had, again, visual experiences where I've seen myself chained to walls with just, with seeing the sores on my arms and my feet, and just being held like that, and being really, really cold, everything around me stone, looking out at the door at my captor, like through like almost a medieval window with cast iron bars sort of across of it. And I'm chained in like big, massive chains with big cuffs, like that sort of size, onto a wall. And I just have really a big blanket over me. Otherwise, underneath, there's very little clothing on me at all, and I'm freezing. And I know from the recollection that my only source of food, my only source of company, my only source of anything, the only life I ever saw was from this one guard who was outside the door. And I almost have this almost love-hate relationship with him, because I need that communication. I need that sort of interaction. But he keeps me in pain. He keeps me chained. He keeps me locked up. He's the one that's keeping me there. Whether or not he's just the guard. I don't know whether or not he actually put me there. I didn't get that. But so that was another interesting one as well. And then the other one, the other one that I've had, which was really, I suppose, a physical experience as well, was when I lost the feeling in my right leg. And I knew immediately that somebody had clubbed my right leg with a big, I went through Google and Googled to try and find where this might have happened in world history. Because again, I was in a very dry place with a huge, great big rock to the side of me. And I had my right leg chained with big, thick iron cuffs again like that. And this person who was, again, African or Middle Eastern or something, dark skin, dark hair, dark eyes. And, Alex, I can recall this now like it was just yesterday. Wherever it's come from, these are like of a truth now in my mind. Like this is how strong it is. And this is why I don't question any of this. I'm just fascinated because it's like a proper truth. And he just whacked my right ankle with a big stone mallet and broke my ankle completely. And again, that searing pain. And I just couldn't move my whole ankle. Like my foot went dead. And it was probably about 25 minutes that she was kind of trying to heal, bringing in angels and bringing in healing and healing energy and all these sorts of things to try and allow me to move my right ankle. And she kept asking me, and I was like, I still can't feel it. I can't lift it up. I can't do anything. So this is, you can understand why I'm fascinated and why I'm so kind of keen to, to find out more.
So can I just ask, when you had your ankle crushed, were you seeing you having that happen, or were you there having it done to you?
I was there having it done to me. I looked at them, I saw the mallet come down and crack onto my ankle and my foot go right out to one side.
Okay. That's interesting. I mean, that there is a part of dissociation where, from my practicing of future life progression, is to visualize yourself. So you're watching yourself, and there are certain aspects, certain things we put in place so you don't bring that pain back with you. And I'm sure, were you okay after that?
Yeah, like I said, once she sort of cleared it all,
fine.
Once she cleared it all, fine. But interestingly, the one with the shoulder, so this life, and this is fascinating to me as well. So in this life, I've got a huge knot, like it's like that big in my shoulder on the right side. And, I'm a yoga teacher and I do a lot. When we were in Thailand, I used to have daily, weekly massages to try and get rid of this knot. It came up when I released a lot of grief when I was in India, training. And my nana had died at the beginning of the year, and it had been very traumatic for me because we'd been in Thailand. I hadn't been able to be there. Oh, it's a big, long story, but it was a quite a dark time of my life as well, and there was a lot of guilt and a lot of emotion, and it sort of all seemed to be. I was aware of it all suddenly. I hadn't realised how much grief I'd been pushing down was one thing, and yet when he hit this part on my shoulder, because I woke up one morning and I just couldn't lift my arm any further than that. So, you know, you can imagine I went going into my yoga classes every day and being taught and having to like demonstrate stuff. And I was just paralyzed, like I couldn't move it. And all I was doing all day long was massaging and trying to rotate my shoulder. But it was like I was pushing against a rock or something, you know, in my shoulder. And even now, so that was 5 years ago. Even now, I'm still working on it. And this is, I'm almost convinced, having had this experience, that this is trauma or a wound or something that I've brought through into this life with me, because there's really, you know, I've never had any car accidents. I've never had any bike accidents. I've never had any physical accidents at all. You know, I've always been lucky like that. I haven't had anything that I could relate to having such sort of trauma and pain as well. You know, a lot of pain in that shoulder. Released a lot more of it now, but it still gets really sore.
Did you have that shoulder pain before you had that experience?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't really see anything. You know, I kind of, you know, like I got it and I was just like, oh God, what, you know, maybe I've slept funny. You know, it's those sorts of things, isn't it? Because you can't align it to anything. You just look at everything. And it was in India at an ashram, so I was sleeping on a hard wooden bed with a mattress that thick. And I was just thinking, oh, you know, I've been in the lap of luxury at home, you know, and I'm getting old. And, you know, it was all these sorts of things. But as time, when he released the grief, because I went to then have my the shoulder massage, that's what they recommended that I do. And when I went to have it released, when he pushed on this point, I started crying straight away. And this was like this little Indian guy who was really, really sweet and really nice. And I just couldn't stop. Like I was quite embarrassed. And, you know, I'm sort of wiping the tears away and just quite sort of, oh God, when's this going to stop? This is like really embarrassing, you know, and it didn't stop for 3 hours. I ended up, he finished the massage, I paid him and tears were still streaming down my throat, even though in my face, even though I was having like a normal conversation with him, I was still streaming tears and really sad in my heart. And then I just kept crying and crying. I went back to the ashram, locked myself in, and just started to really think about what it was that was upsetting me so much, because it wasn't just the pain. And I knew that. And that was when all the stuff with my nana came up. And I started to see her face and hear her voice and all these sorts of things. And so I really just related it to grief. But then rock on, what, 3 or 4 years, 3.5 years, nearly 4 years. And then I have that experience whereby I can feel that the arrows just come straight in and pierced straight through. And I look behind and I can see this guy standing on the top of a mound next to a tree. And he's all in brown and I can't really see his face, but I can see he's like a soldier or something like that. And I know that he's trying to catch me. You know, I know that I'm running from him, and I get this arrow through and it comes straight through. And that was kind of, again, all I got, because, well, I don't know, but I was just focused really like on the searing heat and pain that was going through my shoulder. And so over the past year or so, I've been thinking that maybe that must be what it is, or something related to that.
I mean, very possibly. There's something very interesting the way you tell the story as well. It's almost to me, I wonder whether you're reliving it and you're still carrying that pain. You're still sort of like carrying it with you. And I wonder if you're unconscious, although it knows that pain is there. I wonder if your unconscious mind is aware that that's part of an old story, a past event, and whether it knows that that pain is now kind of unnecessary. You don't need it anymore in your life, and it can just let it go.
Yeah.
And just allow that pain to just leave you.
Yeah.
And the important thing is as well is to, once the pain leaves, is to not try and keep looking for it, because we kind of look for stuff and then we get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So almost like the pathways that you create in your mind through thinking about things,
Yeah.
then your body responds again and you start thinking about it because you're used to thinking about it. You've created that neural pathway into that point of your body. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and if something goes, say pain in your shoulder, say that goes,
Yeah.
and you feel some relief from it, you may, I mean, it's natural to then start trying to find that pain again in your shoulder or whatever. So I always tell the clients that come to me for pain elimination is to ignore, to go away and to not try and find that pain anymore, because your unconscious may think you want it back and you don't want it back because the pain is useless. It's unnecessary. It served its purpose to let you know what happened years ago, but now you don't need it. So you can just let that pain go. And the unconscious mind knows that you can just let that pain go and just allow yourself to just continue without that pain. But if you keep looking back and searching for it, or you say you're reliving an event, you're talking about it, that pain or that discomfort, that physical discomfort can come back.
Yeah.
So it's also looking about being careful about what you're thinking about and what you're looking for. Because if you look for it, then you'll get it. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
well, I forget now what that's called. In where you're looking, um, so visualizing what you want.
Yeah. It's
So
right. Like you
focus on what you don't
if you
want.
believe you can achieve type thing, isn't it? It's that mindset that actually if you focus on it and you think about it, then it's there. You
Right.
manifest
Yes.
it. That's what you've done. So I'm
And
probably not doing myself any favors, keep going for these massages and regularly rubbing it oil,
well,
trying to get rid of it.
go for a massage by all means. But I think that just to be aware, if you don't feel it anymore, then just allow that absence of it to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. When clients come to me and I ask them what they want, they give me a list of what they don't want. Oh, I don't want this pain. I don't want to feel miserable. I don't want to feel I can't eat properly anymore. I don't want to be anxious. I said, well, these are all the things that you don't want, and you're telling yourself this what you don't want. So you're
Yeah.
telling your subconscious things you don't want, and you need to be very clear, using clean language and simple statements when speaking to the unconscious.
Hmm.
So don't have any whatever. The unconscious mind will just hear the last part. Yeah.
So just keep telling myself it's gone. It's not there anymore. I've healed that wound.
Well, it doesn't serve you any purpose, or unless it does serve you purpose. So you got to think about this. Does that just physical discomfort serve you any purpose? Does it help you in any way? Sometimes pain or
Yeah. Am I
discomfort.
holding it for something?
Yeah. Do you feel you need to?
Yeah. I don't know. I'll have a think on that. It's fascinating. So you work predominantly with people with anxiety and depression. Is that right? Or that's
Well, I work, yeah. See, with anxiety is basically the underlying thing of the majority of issues. See, eczema, hay fever, these things are all sort of on some sort of level are anxieties. But yeah, anxiety, depression. I also work with pain elimination, physical, emotional pain elimination. But I also work with, as I said, future, past life regression and future life progression, where you can go into your future or experience a possible future for yourself, see what you need to achieve it, bring back that knowledge, that ability, that confidence, and the clients find they achieve it much sooner. And if they don't like that future, then change it in the present. Go to an alternative future that they do want, bring back the skills needed to achieve those goals in the present now.
so if you're not happy with the way that your life's going now, you still have the ability to come and see you or go to a clinic. Well, I'm just going to say come and see you or go to somebody that specializes in this. And you can give them or you allow them to, how do you do
Yeah,
that?
I give them the skills to do it themselves. Yeah, I mean that's what we really do. We're sort of mediators, really. And if people think of themselves as healers, it's not really them doing the healing. It's possibly the energy going through them to the client from the universe, if you want to think about it that way,
Yeah.
or it's allowing the client or teaching the client to self-heal and to self-actualize. And for the client, because we always teach them self-hypnosis skills, so they can do this for themselves. Because these are skills a sort of perhaps an alternative way of looking at things, or something they can just add on to their normal everyday life. So depending on what the client wants, they can just use some simple relaxing skills, or they can teach themselves how to go into a beautiful trance and experience their own futures and past lives and things like this.
And just be able to sort of pick an alternative that they think actually would make them happy.
Yeah, I mean, for that, you need to be, it's always best to come and see a professional. If there are any problems on the way that come up, blockages perhaps. Sometimes I get clients who can't go into the future. They have these blockages there, and sometimes, not all times, but sometimes it will show them future, something that is coming that they don't want to know, perhaps like breaking up with a partner,
Yeah.
something like that, So then they need a professional there to protect them, because they may not be ready for what they're going to experience. So professional
Yeah.
is usually best to do something like that. But for so things like anxieties, because we all get anxieties, but it's a way of dealing with them.
Yeah.
Life is complicated and we get all sorts of challenges. Just this week, I've had some shocking, but being able to deal with it, learning the skills that we give you, you can cope, just cope much better with life and just enjoy what you have got.
Yeah.
Focus on the positive stuff that you've got.
Yeah. It's brilliant. So what about, because I'm interested in depression, because I suffered from depression. And I found, I mean, I sort of, like you're saying, I feel like whatever work I do is really more about empowering the other person to do it for themselves, rather than having any actual sort of, and I can teach them a skill set, which it sounds like this is what you're saying to me. I can teach them a skill set that will empower them enough to be able for them to change their mindset and change how they think about things, and therefore change their worlds, which I mean, it sounds like you're doing the same thing, but from a very sort of more a pinpoint area rather than the general kind of stuff that I do. You're taking somebody through a very specific course of action, if you like.
Well, I mean, yeah, absolutely. That is definitely one aspect of it. If they come to me for anxiety or depression, then that is what I have to treat. I can't treat anything else. If I think you may have some issues here, I can't treat them without their permission, and I wouldn't say that to them anyway. You need to ask them, is there anything else you would like to work on?
Yeah.
With what you're doing, it sounds like you're doing a sort of a global, as you said, sort of a global experience. And ideally, you kind of want that, because in the hypnotherapy, I have specific techniques that do sort of a global sort of clearance of anxiety. And I mean, it depends on the way you like to work, or the way the client wants you to work. More importantly, do you want to chop and prune the branches, or do you want to cut the tree out, dig the tree out from its roots, kind of technique, And
Yeah.
sometimes they want dig it all out and clear all of it and make a beautiful garden and whatever for you. And sometimes they just want a pruning of these branches here, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, for myself, personally speaking, I had hay fever, eczema, sciatica, depression, anxieties, bruxism. All of these, although treated individually by myself after being trained in it, doing the general clearance of anxiety and ego strengthening just sort of levels you all out. It all just seems to just sort of go away. The addictions, you don't need the addictions, because the addictions are just you investing energy into the relationship with, say, cigarettes, instead of, you should be investing that energy somewhere else, but you're not doing.
Yeah.
And part of that is perhaps fear. So getting the confidence, addressing that fear, getting that confidence, then allows you to move away from the addiction to go and do what you really want to do. Stopping that addiction will also help you with appetite. And then you start doing the exercise and your skin clears up. Hay fever for me it's sort of like your body sort of like having a phobia.
Yeah.
Say as a child, didn't have hay fever for many years, and then started getting hay fever, obviously in the summertime. And we looked at it as, oh, well, as a child, I went out in the summertime and I got bullied by kids. So the body's way of saying, well, don't go outside, you might get attacked. You now have hay fever, stay inside.
Wow,
Yeah,
fascinating. So you manifest the symptoms that will keep you from going. You literally, your subconscious says, I'm protecting you that much that I'm going to manifest symptoms in your body to stop you from being in a situation that I know is harmful for you.
absolutely. Yeah, and that's what it did. And, it
Wow.
was good. And once I realized, I was like, okay, thank you very much for that, because you've got to be nice to the unconscious. You can't be rude or dismissive, because you go
No,
straight
it's
to,
doing it to protect you, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. So thank you so much for the work you've been doing. Now I really need you to change the strategy, because the hay fever is giving me issues, breathing issues. I don't need that anymore. It's useless to me. I want it to leave. Can you please scan the top of my head to the tips of the toes and just remove any anxieties or whatever from the environment regarding hay fever and pollen, and then replace, because you always got to replace. If you take something away, you got to replace with something positive.
Yeah, because the vacuum.
Oh, yeah, the vacuum, Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to fill the vacuum with love or healing energy, something like that.
Yeah.
They're comfortable with using whatever they work.
So would you say that you can do that with any sort of any presenting symptom?
Theoretically, yes. Yeah, but you got to. I mean, I got to be careful. I personally would not, but yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, with the safety in place, safety.
Yeah, with the right experience and the right
Yeah,
people,
absolutely.
that sort of thing.
And this is a growing train of thought, that things like any allergies are basically a phobia. I'm speaking with one of my trainers at Future House training, who taught me pain elimination techniques. They're looking into working with GPs in safe environment for testing these sort of ideas and theories. We've seen it work with things like hay fever and other allergies that don't give anaphylactic shock. So it's a
So
very,
something like eczema or psoriasis, something like that as well. Any sort of what I would call like low level, if you like, but still a response to your environment, essentially.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you remember. I remember as a child, parents always used to say, "Be careful, you don't choke on nuts," sort of thing. You might choke on nuts, yeah. And then
Yeah.
suddenly we'd have a lot of peanut allergies and this sort of thing coming out, and that just seemed very interesting when I read that. Having a lot, I mean, years ago we never had peanut allergies, and now we seem to have all these peanut allergies. And I know there are various theories as to why we have those, but sort of implanting a fear can create these
Presenting symptoms.
yeah, they can, yeah.
Yeah.
We're doing it all the time. It's very interesting how you could do some of the best intentions, because they're all done with the best intentions.
Yeah.
Your unconscious or subconscious isn't there to sabotage you. It is there to protect you. Things done with the best intentions can give disastrous results. And it's just very interesting to me that it works that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Terrible, terrible hay fever. I couldn't breathe at night. I wouldn't go out because I had like red bloodshot eyes, constant sort of post-nasal drip where the fluid would go down into your lungs. You're constantly coughing all day.
Oh,
None
yeah.
of
And
the
let me
medication worked. Yeah, none of the medication worked. They looked terrible. I felt terrible. I hated myself and always stayed inside. Use these techniques. And it didn't work the first time. Nothing really does work the first time. When you're trying it out. After it's
yeah. Still
tested.
have to go into like training the brain, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like whatever you do, one of the things that I teach, and I'm an absolute vehement advocate for, is daily practice.
Yeah.
The way that I have changed my life, it's the one thing that I can't go without my practice. Otherwise, I begin to get. I wouldn't say I'm addicted to it, but I'm just so mindful of how it sets me up for the whole of my day. It puts me in a position of just feeling like I've controlled my life by starting the way I want to start. That's why I put it in first thing in the morning. It's done before anything else. It's like I almost condition my body and my mind and my emotions and my energy into being the best version of me that I want to be going forward in the day. And I do it through my little strategies and my little, my daily practice, I call it. And it's all these little things that I do that make me feel good about myself, that allow me to feel healthy and feel vibrant and empower me to go out and teach and share this energy and all this sort of stuff. And this is actually something I devised for myself, not having the information or the knowledge that I've gained subsequently. So it's just been about going, oh my goodness, for me, for like the past few years, I've gone, oh my goodness, I did that. Oh my goodness, I did that. And it's literally, I agree. Like you can't just, it's like anything, isn't it? You can't get on the treadmill and expect to know where you should be running up hills and whether or not the little thing should go up or down and how fast you should be going. You've got to get on it a couple of times to get your rhythm so that you can know how many calories you're going to be burning and know where know how many minutes you can do without really losing the ability to breathe, all that sort of thing. Yeah. So I agree absolutely 100%. One time for anything is just not enough. It's just a taster, isn't it, really? And if you're focused on it and if you're really considering making a change, then you have to invest your time and your effort and your energy and obviously your mindset into that.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to invest your time. You have to invest your energy. It has to be. You have to be serious about doing it. Like going to the gym, you can get the membership, but you got to be serious about doing it. You got to want to do it.
Yeah. Otherwise you just will.
Yeah. When I get clients who come to me who say they want to quit smoking, and I ask them why, and they say, "Oh, look, my wife is sick of it." Well, that's not a good enough reason.
Yeah.
You want to quit.
Yeah, it's got to come from you.
Yeah, otherwise we're going to have problems with it.
Yeah.
Saying that, I haven't had many problems with quit smoking. I've been quite successful at that. Sometimes the clients, again, that's just about committing the time to it. I give about 3 to 6 sessions on presenting issue, unless it's smoking or pain elimination. Those are done, but they're done like over 3 hours in one session. So that's a lot of sort of time commitment to do that.
Yeah.
But you got to put in the time as well, as you said. You got to put in the time. You got to come back and finish. You got to complete the training or complete the therapy. In my case.
Yeah, like join the whole dots thing up, like finish the circle. Yeah.
You got to do the assignments. You got. I teach them self-hypnosis skills in the first session. They go away. They come back, and they have to practice that. Because it just helps set their mind up to go into that nice, relaxing state again.
Yeah.
But see, not everybody wants to do that. They want you to fix me now.
Yeah. They don't want to take responsibility. I think that's what I think we're all battling with that, where in whatever genre of sort of self-help or conscious living or holistic health or whatever, we're so conditioned, and we have been for so long now, to believe that there should be like a little quick fix somewhere, that little pill that you can just take and that's it. Poof, job done, and I know I certainly struggle with it with my clients. And I can imagine that you struggle with it with yours, that they just think, well, I'm, here I am for 3 hours. Surely that's it. Like, you should be able to fix me now type thing. And there's the lack of accountability there as well, and the lack of responsibility for yourself, which I imagine is key. At some point, you've got to be able to take responsibility for the fact that you're the smoker. You're the one that's got this need, or this, you're the one that's under this addiction, if you like. If you still think that it's just something, like you say, you've got to do because your wife doesn't like it, or it's bad for your health, or you've got a baby coming and you've got to give up, the wife says no more, that sort of thing. It's actually got to essentially come from you and your fundamental needs and wants to be able to get past even the first hurdles.
Yes, and smokers are wonderful at having hypnotized themselves in the first place into smoking all these terrible chemicals. The body is coughing, saying, "Get it away from me! I'm feeling sick." Put it down. Get away from it. I'm choking. It gives that choking sensation. Your heart races. That's panic. And then to overcome all that and to put it into your system, that I am going to be calm. If you check a smoker's pulse, and they have a cigarette, they're not calm. They say
Yeah.
that it calms me. It doesn't calm you, dude. It's poison in your
Yeah.
body. It is exacerbating your anxiety. But no,
Yeah.
but it doesn't do that. So you got to, for a smoker, we've got to help them. We've got to pull them out of that sort of that bad hypnotic sort of training they've done to themselves, like smoking relaxes them, and it is good. No, it's choking you. You know it is. You are naturally a non-smoker. Your body isn't designed for this. The body's telling you to put that down. It's making you feel sick.
Yeah.
So it's just fascinating. People come already kind of hypnotized. Identity is a big thing. I had knee pain. My father had the knee pain. His father had the knee pain. Now I've got it. Had it my entire life. Can't get rid of it. Maybe we can't if you're not ready to let it go in that identity.
Yeah.
So that's, doctors, unfortunately, they say, I'm sorry, you'll have it the rest of your life. They
Yeah,
have,
and that just lodges in there, doesn't it? Because that's in itself almost a traumatic experience as well, isn't it? When you hear that as a presenting symptom, you're suffering from it, for example, and that's it. There's nothing I can do. That you're going to have to manage that for the rest of your life. That's quite a traumatic experience as it is, isn't it?
you're absolutely right. Yeah. So we all have to be careful because we're all very suggestible, and we all do. Even with our loved ones, we say things to them, and they go in, and if they're not worded correctly or we're not thinking properly at that moment, it'll go in.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah.
So can you work with hypnotherapy within family relationships as well? Like, say, for example, I'm just going on what you just said, that if for example I don't know, you've had the misfortune of being brought up by a verbally or emotionally abusive parent, and they've always told you you're one thing, you're one thing, you're one thing, and so you've built up this self-belief, this negative self-belief about yourself. Can you remove that with hypnotherapy as well? Are you able to get into like the emotional sort of stuff as well?
Yeah.
Because there's so many deep-rooted ties, aren't there, with the parents, especially. I've been doing some research as well, and I've got a friend who's set up this whole thing about syntonic birth, she calls it, which is how influenced the fetus is within the, even as an embryo, by its environment, by its surroundings, receiving messages from the mother, both physically in terms of what she eats and drinks, what comes into the body physically, but also about the environment that she's living in, how she's responding to that environment. And the idea behind it, or the research behind it, is suggesting that this is because it's just another avenue, if you like, of preparation for the child as it's born into the world, so that it can be best suited, best prepared for the environment that it's going to be born into. And so I suppose you could liken it to like a gazelle, for example, on the savannah, being born in, and it must make it onto its legs in the first 3 minutes, otherwise that's it, and we've kind of got that instinctual thing going on as well, where we have to, if we're being, for example, if the mother is in a negative relationship and she's not feeling secure, and she's not feeling supported, and there's problems, and she's really feeling stressed throughout the pregnancy, then the likelihood is that the baby will come out with some level of anxiety present because of the anxiety that's been surrounded with, and it's coming out presenting all the sort of fight and flight responses that it would need to respond to an environment like that. Whether it has that experience when it actually comes out is almost irrelevant, because it's already gone in the very formative part, because children take on board the majority of their learning about social interaction and love and, and behavioral patterns and stuff like that up to the age of 7. This is what I've been reading anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong, and you know more. I'm always willing to learn more. But then if you take that back from the birth as well, that's that kind of 8 years of being subject to everything around you. You're just like a sponge, drawing it in and preparing yourself to keep going in this world that you've created for yourself. And bearing in mind, we're talking about a child's mind. We're talking about, because they don't have a lot of logic. Everything's very emotional. It's very response driven. It's not kind of structured, logical, experiential thought, because of course they haven't had much experience. The experience that they have had has been, what they've been going through as babies, not being able to communicate, not being able to move, as toddlers, trying to fight their way through finding out where it is that they can go then in this world that's around them. Would that be something, if it's deep rooted like that, would that be something that you could work with as well? I'm sure not just in one session, but do you think that would be something that you could go back to almost being a baby, being, and responding to whatever presented itself because of that environment?
The unconscious mind is very suggestible, and you can use the unconscious mind to change the physical body. So you can, I have suggested the unconscious can reuse stem cells to move to certain parts of the body to promote growth and correcting certain chemical imbalances in the body. So that is possible. That has been done.
Wow.
So yeah, you can do that. You would go back, to where you could use it as I may or may not have mentioned. You could use a clearance sort of protocol to go and to clear everything from your history, to go back to a certain point and activate that that perfect human DNA blueprint of you, to activate that perfect immune system, perfect health, perfect strength. Ask the unconscious to activate that DNA blueprint of the perfect human being that you are entitled to be.
So
yeah.
Brilliant. And so I'm going to put myself out on a limb here, and I don't really expect you to confirm or deny, but from what you've just said, then for me, it kind of runs that with the right suggestive thought. I'm going to be careful about what I say now. With the right suggestive thought, you should also be able to heal parts of your body, any part of your body that is in trauma or malfunctioning or presenting disease, shall we say?
Yes.
Is there research, or is there scientific evidence, or is there experiential evidence of that being done?
Yeah.
Within the field of hypnotherapy?
Yeah, the scientific research is out there that shows effectiveness of hypnotherapy and other forms of meditation to help reduce and clear cancer cells. Okay.
Wow.
That is there. There is specific training you need to go into to look at that. And not just anybody can do that. And if you are considering that, then please do your research on the hypnotherapist or the practitioner you go to.
Yeah.
There are some very impressive individuals out there. I'm just trying to think of the names now. There's a David. Sorry, I forget that. Somebody in America. But there are people out there that specifically deal with healing the body with severe, with sort of last stage disease.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I haven't. The closest I worked with was with an elderly lady who had about 4 months to live. That was dealing with her being able to go into the future and making amends with all the people she may have upset, making sure that there are people there to look after the arrangements for when she passes. And that that peace of mind she got, that peace of mind, because emotions can physically affect the body.
Absolutely, yeah.
That indeed helped her. I haven't seen her since, but I was very humble. I felt very humble working with her.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I have tried to offer my services voluntarily to certain hospices, but the way hypnotherapy is, they're not too familiar with it, so some people are a bit closed off from it.
Yeah.
From only
Belief as well, doesn't it, that there should be a pill somewhere. It shouldn't be like this. And alternative, if you like. I mean, why they call it alternative, I don't really know, because this sort of thing has been around for millennia.
Yes.
You know, we look at, I mean, just in the field that I'm in, and you look at yoga and meditation and self-healing and positive thought and all that sort of thing, it's like documented thousands and thousands of years ago. You know, these were the practices, daily practices that people put themselves through to keep themselves healthy. And it wasn't anything to do with nutrition. These were, you know, according to, you know, the records and the evidence that they found, these people weren't necessarily living in really abundant places, you know, with all kind of organic. I mean, obviously the food would have been fully like organic then, you know what I mean? But in the sense of they would have had a restricted diet. It wouldn't have had the variety, and it might not have had the variety of vitamins and stuff that we have available to us now. But still, you know, they were maintaining longevity far past what we're getting here now on the world, you know, far past, like 150 years easily, 170 years. One man, I think, was documented presenting 254 years. And, you know, and it was through his mindset, and it was through his very humble diet, you know, not putting too much strain on the body, only eating when he needed to eat, sometimes going days without food, you know, all those sorts of things. And as it turns out, our bodies are able to cope with that. I mean, I can't go, like I was saying to you earlier, I can't go for like a morning without being like starving and feeling like my throat's been cut. But yeah, but apparently it can be done. So I better get my mindset in gear. I'm feeling a little bit like I'm missing a trick here.
But no, but it is. It's designed to and again, the studies show there are health benefits from fasting.
Yeah.
The thing about the human body, for me, it always fascinates me. It does kind of seem to be sort of unfinished model. We have the animal instincts of fight, flight, freeze, or shite, and we have all these sort of killer instincts and these natural instincts to procreate, and then we have the cerebellum, we have the cerebral cortex, we have sort of self-awareness, and we have guilt and all these other emotions, but we still have all these other things, and we don't, and then we have them when we don't really. What do we have all these instincts for? We're not using them, and of course they can start to build up in you, and maybe they express themselves in anxieties and phobias and all these other mental health problems that we're seeing now. And it makes me wonder about what we will be in a few years' time, a few hundred years' time, if we will have evolved, what we will have evolved into. It's because I don't know, for me it just seems we do seem to be battling with being human.
Yeah.
Because
what human actually looks like.
Yeah.
Like you say, that there's so many things that almost hold us back, like the fight or flight response, all that sort of thing, really roots us deep in our past and what we've been told anyway about it being really a survival instinct, you know, an ability to be able to take everything that you need, put it out to your legs and your arms, run as fast as you can to get away from that situation. But like you say, we've actually been out of that situation now for a long time, really, like in you know, I mean, not perhaps in terms of evolution per se, but long enough not to be so reliant on it, or not to have it present to the point where now it's almost malfunctioning, you know, as stress becomes part of our daily lives, seemingly. I mean, and the more and more we accept that for ourselves, that's what worries me. The more and more people just accept that this is how life is now. You know, you don't push against it and say, well, no, hang on a minute, I'm not going to be doing a 14 to 16 hour day. You know, life is not about that. The more they just sort of say, all right, then another couple of hours, you know, no, I worked overtime. Well, no, I don't get paid, but, you know, it's a regular thing, you know, actually working like, you know, a 45-hour week rather than a 40-hour week, because I'm regularly doing that, and not recognizing for a second that, first of all, you know, literally their pound of flesh is not, you know, receiving any response, you know, any return for what you're giving out. You're not getting return for that. But second of all, that you just slip into somebody else making all these decisions for you, you know, that we just slip into this mindset. I don't know, I've been shocked. How have you felt coming back from Thailand? Because for me, I've just been like, what's happened to this country? Like, we've seen more and more more and more suicide, more and more gangs, more and more unrest. And it's like, God, it was only gone 8 years. Like, the whole place has changed for me. The amount of vaccinations in school now, you know, when we were young, there was a list of vaccinations like that. Now my girls have gone into primary school and it's like that. And they're vaccinating for everything, whether they know it works or not. You know, my girls, when they're 12, apparently will be offered some anti-cancerous vaccine type thing. And I'm just like, but that's not the way cancer manifests. So, you know, and so I think this whole keeping everybody in fear and keeping everybody on the edge of their seat and in stress, it doesn't give them the opportunity to take a step back and look and wonder and figure out for themselves the question and, you know, begin to kind of, I suppose, really discover and learn a different way. You know, it just keeps the wheel turning, doesn't it?
It does, and I wonder for who, and for where is that wheel eventually going? I mean, where, what are we heading towards in that situation?
Yeah.
I mean, we're all here for a purpose. So you and I have a very specific journey. We all have a very specific journey. If you feel out of place, if you feel, you know, you don't belong, then there's something there that you need to address, and you can address it. And there are people there, professionals, who can help you do it safely and properly, and help you become the most amazing version of yourself that you can possibly be. And it does kind of worry me, the amount of suicides we're having. I think I had two gentlemen unfortunately commit suicide in the last few months I've been back over here, and it just really. And I thought at this age, you know, you kind of got through your childhood and your teens, and you should have been
Yeah.
able to get to a stage in your life at this time where you can cope with anything, and that's not the case. So,
Yeah.
I mean, my heart goes out to them, man, and I'll happily help as many people as I can. The sad thing is nobody values anything free.
No.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you know, you have to present yourself professionally. You have to say, this is what I do. I can help you if you're interested in doing that. And, you know, you don't have to have that anxiety-driven 48-hour-a-week lifestyle. It is there. It's an interesting choice, but it is a choice.
Mm.
So yeah, so I'm all about exploring why we're here and doing what we need to do. And if why we're here is to help others, then do that.
Yeah. Well, that seems to have been the message for about the last few thousand years anyway. I mean, when you look back at yoga and you like the yogic texts, the Vedic scriptures, and you look at the message from the Buddha and, you know, some of the oldest transcripts, it's all about serving others, all about helping other people, because collectively and only collectively we will rise. You know, whether you believe that or not, you really only have to look into your own heart to know how good it feels when you help somebody. You know, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be all ethereal and out there and woo woo, lost in the universe. You can actually just connect into yourself, and you know, yesterday I was walking into the petrol station and there was a little old lady with one of those little three-wheeler things that just help them move along, and she got it stuck, and I picked it up and I helped her, and you know, just give me a little smile, but it just made me feel like, oh, you know, that was nice. I felt good about myself, you know, and it's just
help one.
Yeah, just you know,
one, and you'll know what to do.
yeah. But you know, you connecting with yourself, you can. It's almost like it is that whole feeling of what one person feels, we can all feel. You know, that collective consciousness. So if you can recognize that just in yourself, then you can imagine how powerful that would be if we all do ever, like you say, manage to kind of get it together and sort it out and really just let go of all the manufactured, I'm going to say bullshit, because it's, you know, I'm thinking about war and I'm thinking about, you know, the way different genders are treated, different races, you know, age discrimination, you know, all of it. Like no one's valued anymore. You know, even like I was talking about in a few series, a few sessions ago in this Happy Guru, we were talking about the divine feminine and how, you know, belittled to put a nice phrase on it, the image of the woman has been over millennia, and how actually the role for a woman is to be a maiden, then to become a mother, and then to become a crone. And it was these kind of three things. And I was laughing and joking and just saying, you know, can't wait to get to cronehood, you know, like with all the craggy eyes and all that sort of thing, mad, crazy grey hair, like that's what I'm going for. But every step of that way, you're made not to feel sort of good enough as a woman. You know, when you're young, you're insignificant, you are, you know, there's a lot of kind of different attitudes towards younger women, shall we say, than younger men, the way they present themselves, how much they can actually achieve academically or within our society, or those sorts of things. Then as a mother role, you know, you're made to feel guilt for all sorts of things. And you are, you know, again, it's an older, shall I say, now perspective, but it was very much at home. You know, you're the mum, you stay at home, you look after everything at home, you know, you're almost cut off, you look after the kids, you're at home, you do all the chores and everything else. The man continues on his life and carries on as he was. And then when you finally get to kind of the wisdom of it, it's the lessons that you've learned from surviving all that is the wisdom that you carry on, which is obviously a self-fulfilling prophecy, again, a perpetuating cycle, because the wisdom that you're carrying on is not getting these younger generations out of what you've seen and experienced to be negative and holding you back in your life. It's actually just continuing on that pattern and that cycle. And again, you know, you can see it in so many other different genres of social conditioning. And race is another perfect example, that there's really no reason at all for anybody to look at another person who has a different colored skin or slightly different hair or facial construct or physical construct and think that they would be feeling anything other than what you're feeling. You know, just, we're all different. Like, you know, you and I are both English. We're both around the same age. You know, there are similar things. Like we might have we've got quite different color skin. Look, I'm quite brown still from my holiday. But you know, do you know what I mean? We're all so different. Even within our cultures, within our races, within our families, we're all so different. So where do you get this idea that only one way is the right way? You know, it's all this sort of stuff that we need to kind of let go to be able to move on. And I think, like, this is why I'm kind of interested, I suppose, as well, in the past life regression and in the future life ascension, do you call it? Is that right? Have I got that right?
Future life progression, but ascension is fine as well.
Yeah, so future life progression, and just seeing, like, can you go as far into the future to be able to see that in hypnotherapy? Can you see what's in the future? Like past the life that you're in now?
Absolutely, yes. We do that with clients. Yeah, I've experienced it myself many times.
Have you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Fancy sharing anything with us?
Let me think.
Sorry, I've put you on the spot, haven't I?
Yeah, it's quite personal. Let me think.
Okay, don't worry. If it's not something.
But you can. I mean, clients have gone into the future where they're living in a completely different environment. They're trying to get water to a native people. I've had another client. I think was like a sort of a blue entity on another planet, trying to save like a plant species or something. You can go thousands of years into the future. Well, you can ask your unconscious to do this and experience what you believe that to be. And again, when you meet yourself, very different species. Ask yourself for any wisdom, and of course, I always give you some wisdom and knowledge of what you should do here. A lot of the knowledge or the wisdom given, it really seems to be about helping others. Help yourself to help others.
Yeah.
And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. So that's really the general message that's permeating through, because if you're talking about thousands of years in advance and different planets and stuff like that, then we really are talking about this one consciousness that is, you know, not just bound to this planet either, not just bound to human beings on this planet, as you know, but actually expanding out into the universe, other planets, other what we would call sort of life forms, ET species, whatever you want to call it. But still, the fact that we're sharing these, we're sharing the one purpose, if you like, that's coming through, is to just help one another. which is lovely actually, because when you think about it, it comes back to the one absolute truth, which is love. You know, that feeling, doesn't it? And it's that's permeating through the whole universe. When what they must be thinking, I mean, we're sitting here thinking, why can't we get it together? They must be thinking, God, when are they going to get it together? It's been thousands of years. We've sent people back. People are coming in. People are coming forward. When's it going to kick off?
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember reading, I was listening to a guy, I think I told you the other day, Dr. Bruce Goldberg, who he started off as being a dentist and using forms of CBT, I think it was, to prepare his patients before they went and had some sort of dentistry work or whatever done, you know, because people get freaked out about the dentist. And through experiences that he had with his patients, he ended up being part-time dentist, full-time hypnotherapist. And I think now he's like really well renowned. He's done something like 35,000 regressions, I think it's regressions, being through 15,000 patients or that sort of thing. And he's said that he's been into the future. I'm not going to be able to quote this perfectly because it was over a week ago, but it was like something like 3,000 and something, you know, like the year 3,000 and something. And it was a time when human beings were ascending, which is a bit disappointing because that's a long time in advance, isn't it? But they were ascending and they were all about healing. And it was all about, like you say, helping other people and really just helping everybody, for everyone to be able to come up. And I had another experience, which was what I term more of a kind of an out-of-body experience, really, where I felt myself leave my physical self and go. I sort of rushed up, I would say, through like a stream of kind of, I'm going to say conscious light because those are the words that come to me. So I'm just going to say that. But it was like a stream of conscious light that took me straight up into the stars, which is the only way I can really describe it. And the presence that I felt there was huge. It was very welcoming. I didn't see face or any sort of determination of form at all. It was like having somebody behind you and knowing that they're there, and that person being huge and about to like wrap you in the softest, cuddliest blanket or something like that. It was just really a lovely feeling, a knowledge, a knowing. And I asked, basically, how can I help? You know, what am I supposed to be doing? Because it freaked me out being up there a little bit. I wasn't expecting this. And I saw myself taking hold of hands on both sides and like almost levitating. So just again, holding on. I was aware that it was a man on one side and a woman on the other side. And I was taking the hands and we were all moving up together. And that was kind of, like I say, a little bit of a weird out-of-body experience that I had. But it felt like a connection, if you like. It felt, to me, like a little pointer, like a push. That's what, you know, don't doubt what you're doing. It's that you're doing the right thing. It's just a kind of that's right. You know, it wasn't any great enlightenment. I wasn't having big conversations or anything like that. This was in a meditation. And so but I didn't expect to go anywhere, you know, like, and I haven't been anywhere like that since. I've been to sort of other funny little places, but I haven't been anywhere where I felt this kind of rush and almost a pull out of my body. Because I was very aware that I wasn't in my physical self still. So that was weird. But yeah, again, I think you're right. I think that ultimately, once we can all kind of learn to help one another and support one another, then we'll begin to change. Then we'll begin to see a different kind of world from the one that we're doing at the moment. And I've talked about distraction and disconnection and all that sort of thing on these shows, and how important it is that we aren't distracted from living, that we aren't distracted from our relationships, and that we put into one another and we spend time with one another and we connect and we talk and all these things that, you know, really fulfill your life as well. You know, it's not just about asking if someone can pass you the remote. It's not just, you know, what you want for tea. It's actually talking about the things that have affected you and the people that you are and where you want to go. And And as you're very rightly saying, like with hypnotherapy, essentially it comes from the way you sort of are speaking to yourself, the messages that you're giving yourself, whether it be a past life thing that you brought in, whether it be a learned pattern that your subconscious has taken hold of, like your allergies, and trying to protect you from a traumatic event in your past. It's all about that communication, isn't it?
Yeah. Your unconscious will do its best, and it will always communicate with you if something's wrong. So, for example, a fibromyalgia patient. A lot of people, if you look at fibromyalgia patients, they kind of work really hard. They work really hard. They'll do anything for anyone else, but they don't really like people helping them out. They have to sort of do it themselves. And so what happens is the unconscious is like saying, you've got to slow down. You have to slow down. I'll make you slow down. And of course, they get some pains, and they try and fight through it, because, that's how you do it. You fight through it. I'm a survivor,
Yeah.
and you fight through it, and it gets worse and gets worse. And of course, they rest only for a short time, then they feel slightly better, and then they get back into it again. The unconscious is always there and will always try and tell you if something's wrong, and you got to listen to it. It's not about putting a cream on to get rid of the eczema.
Yeah.
Well, partly about that. It's not just about taking the antihistamines to stop the pollen. It's not about taking the antidepressants, although I'm not having any opinion on medication. It's not just about the medication to lift your depression.
Yeah. Alone.
Alone, yeah. It's there for a reason. The depression is your unconscious way of letting you know something's wrong, obviously, and it's also there as a strategy to protecting you from something. I remember in my depression, I think, it affects everybody individually. With my depression, it was masking a lot of anger. I don't know whether your depression was the same. I don't know.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Frustration, feeling trapped, and anger, like you say, really like, and a lack of control.
Yes.
I think that's the pervading thing. It was just a massive lack of control. And I wouldn't say I'm a control freak at all, but I've grown up and I've moved out and I've done my own thing, and I've done a lot on my own. So then to be suddenly so out of control of my own existence and my own life in every aspect was definitely, I can actually remember it almost going ting with a conversation and some news that I had. And I always remember thinking that it was heartbreak. But actually, as I look back now, I think it just almost something in me just snapped, and whatever tentative thing that was holding on, thinking it's going to be okay, it just went ting. And that was it, with this conversation, with this realization. And then it was forever broken. I could never pull it back together again, because that truth that I'd perceived had wedged itself so far in there that I was never going to be able to bring it back again. And actually I think when I look back at it now, I didn't even try to rebuild that tentative link. I've actually built other links around it that have built me up. I haven't fixed that idea, I suppose, of what my life was. I'm struggling, but I don't know what it was, whether it was an expectation or something like that, some in-ground belief that this is how my life should have been. And then it was getting less and less connected, and then suddenly it just went ping, and that was it. And there's no fixing in a rubber band, is there? You know what I mean?
Now it's broken. Now
yeah, that's it. And so I found that after that, really, it wasn't about fixing that tenuous break. It was about actually building up a brand new structure and putting that back together again for myself. And effectively, because that's exactly what I've done, is build myself up to be not a different person. It's still very, I'm still very much the person that I was. Thank God I've come back, a little bit, but I'm definitely much more focused than I've ever been in my life since that. I was very much a dreamer. I was very romantic. I was very scattered. I never really knew what I wanted to do. I was so through the world, loving life, happy days, and then I think it was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. And I built up this great big expectation of it. And then when it all just crumbled, that was the beginning for sure. And then stuff just compounded on it, so I couldn't even see where the breaks were and where I could even begin. And that was the worst time, I think, when you just don't know, and it's awful. And like you say, like the levels of suicide I was reading about it literally 2 hours ago. Men between the ages of 40 and 44 are the highest growing number of people to commit suicide now, 40 to 44. And like you, I was thinking, but they should have the majority of people should be having families. They should know who they are by now. They should be quite settled in their career by now. Really that kind of the tumultuous time should have been past. These people that really have put quite a lot of time into life now, and why 40, 44? As a man, you're almost in the prime of your life, and obviously these guys aren't thinking that, but when you think about your 20s, you tend to kind of experiment and learn things, don't you? Maybe in your 30s, you're kind of starting a family, you've got your career going, you're buying a house, it's kind of exciting times. Why, when you get into your 40s, and I ask because I'm 42 now and I'm getting a bit like, oh, why when you get into your 40s now are we suddenly beginning to feel real depression and to the point of suicide, to the point of not being able to see a way out? It's, I mean, I don't expect you to have the answer, but it's just, like you said earlier, like, why is this happening now? Like, why in this age group specifically?
I think, and I don't have the answer, obviously. It's a rhetorical question, but I do think that for some, the realization or the awareness that it's okay to talk about this sort of thing may have come a little too late for them.
Yeah.
Um,
They're still living in like old school.
well, I mean, I think the old school stuff, because when you see something dying out, you mourn for it and you go down with the ship. And maybe it's just too different for those in that way. My dad never talked about it. I never talk about it. And now seeing changes where it's okay to talk about it. I mean, that realization, like, oh my God, I could have talked about it. It's okay to talk about it. For some, it's a relief that they can. And for others, it can be catastrophic. Like, oh my God, I didn't know this. That can be overwhelming, I think, for some of them. But, we're just talking. I mean, I'm just amazed at, but most of my friends went through that very specific period where they get the job in the 20s, they get the girlfriend, maybe they'd lose a girlfriend here or there, and they get another one, then they'd be having kids, and now they're sort of settled, right? And for me, it wasn't that. It was like, in my 20s, I'll get a girlfriend. I definitely will. Then my 30s, definitely get a girlfriend in my 30s. Something's going wrong. 35. Okay, well, I'm just happy being on my own then. I'm still studying and doing all my reading, and there's something there that I'm not getting. I'm not understanding about human life. So I'm the one who's really struggling. Yeah, all you guys, you're okay. You're all following the same pattern. And then I come back, and then I hear between 40 and 44.
Yeah.
So then you should have had this worked out. I thought I had a tough life.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe we got damaged earlier on, so we were able to come back from it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting what you say, I think, actually, about, almost generational influence as well. Like, my dad didn't talk, so therefore I won't talk, because obviously, as we've mentioned before, huge bonds with the parents and your subconscious mind and your self-belief patterns and all these things, like massive relationships, parental relationships when you look at mental health. And I think we've seen such a quick change across the planet over the last few decades. When you think about communication opening up, the world opening up, there's more opportunity, and yet with opportunity comes a sense of almost pressure in itself as well, because you think like, God, I should be able to manage all of this. It was very easy 50 years ago to say, I was born in this village, I'm going to die in this village, I'm always going to work in this village, that's going to be it, and maybe for a mindset, if you like, that's been brought up by an older generation, maybe older parents, or has been heavily influenced by, the older generation, or a more traditional, shall I say, mindset, that actually all this change, like you say, just freaks you out. Actually, it doesn't feel like opportunity. It just feels like you should be able to achieve more, and you're not. Actually, you're just achieving what your dad did, and yet you feel like there's some sort of social pressure or expectation that you should be able to be doing more, to be having more, because look what all these other people have had. I don't know. Like you say, we're just talking. I feel like we've even strayed off of hypnotherapy here now. We're talking about, but it's just
related though.
Yeah, well, I wanted to, as I said to you before, I wanted to have you on the show following the emotions and the correlation between emotional health and physical health segments that I did over the last 3 weeks, because as I was reading through a lot of the research, hypnotherapy was coming up time and time again. And then after connecting with you again and talking to you, I was just kind of like, this is going to be good, because actually it just compounds the importance of self-thought, of self-belief, and all the influences that kind of come under those umbrellas, everything that you take on board, and what you're willing to accept for yourself, all those sorts of things. So it is, it's all part and parcel of the same thing, isn't it? Whenever you're working with the mind, you're being aware of, everything that we've kind of discussed today. You're being aware of the outside pressures, the inside pressures. But it's just so interesting to find out how much you can do for yourself as well. So you talked briefly about being able to give people almost like a little takeaway, if you like a little, this is how you can start, like I talked about daily practice, that sort of thing. Is there anything that you can kind of advise our listeners to do today, or anything that you can give them today that might just help to lessen the load a little bit? Or I don't know, you be my guide.
Yeah, there is. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a hypnotherapy skill,
Yeah.
but it's a very good skill. Very easy to do, and that is to get yourself in a room or somewhere you can be alone by yourself for an hour. For an hour, every minute of that hour, for 17 seconds, think of one positive thought about yourself.
So every minute, for 17 seconds of that minute, you think about something positive.
Yeah.
About yourself, something that you love.
Something that you love. It can be a memory, an achievement, for 17 seconds of that minute.
Oh, that's cool. I like.
And the next one, 17 seconds. It can be anywhere within that minute, okay? I find it best to have a clock with a second hand ticking around. It's much easier to do. And the next minute comes and you take a few seconds to breathe. It's quite easy to do. Take a few seconds, you get that next positive thought, and you go to that positive thought and you hold it for 17 seconds. You enjoy it, you breathe it, you drink it, you feel it for 17 seconds.
You live it almost.
Yeah. You're sitting down for 17 seconds of that minute. Then you give yourself a little break, and the next minute comes along, 17 seconds, and go to the next one, 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 for 1 hour. You do that, you will feel so amazing about yourself. What you do is you basically put up beautiful paintings in your mind of all these real memories. Yeah?
Yeah.
That will give you such a beautiful display in your head whenever your mind goes on screensaver, whenever you're not thinking about anything. You'll just have that beautiful thing to look at. You do that 1 hour, every minute, 17 seconds. Doesn't matter where you start in that minute. It's good to be looking at a clock with a second hand so you can watch the seconds go. 1 minute, 17 seconds of each minute for an hour. Find that positive thought, that memory, that happy memory. Keep it, relive it, give yourself a break, go on to the next one.
Oh, that's brilliant.
You will wake up or get up feeling so amazing about yourself after that.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's great. Thank you. That's great. And so would you do that every day, or would you, an hour a day perhaps might be a little bit much for people, but just as often as you can.
Yeah,
just
for now,
seeing how fabulous life is and how grateful you are, because that's what essentially you're reliving, isn't it? Those times that, you know, the times when you felt really good about yourself or had a great experience, or and you're creating the visual because you've actually done it. It's something you've achieved already.
Yeah. It's really good for those of us who have these intrusive negative thoughts. It's really good for obliterating those, getting those out of the way. So when you're rested, when you're walking down the stairs, when you open a door to do something that you're just on autopilot, you've got this beautiful imagery in your head. There's all those thoughts are just there, the images are there for you to just jump to, and they make you feel better about yourself. The negative thoughts can just jump in so quickly and just dig away at you. So we do this exercise. If you can get an hour a day, that's great. That's really what you should be. You should be able to do an hour a day.
Yeah.
But just do it once, see how you feel, and then do it again afterwards.
Yeah.
I've only done it once, but I felt amazing after it. I did a before and after footage, and I just had this big smile on my face. I'm not really a smiler, but I had this big glowing smile on my face for hours afterwards, and it was wonderful. And
you know, talking about it, your face has kind of lightened up a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, just as you recalled it, your eyes sort of softened, and you know, you could. It was almost like you were recalling it and taking yourself back into the memory of that lovely experience as well.
Just lovely, and you just feel so lovely about it, and you can just really deal with anything after that.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, thank you, Alex. That's brilliant. Okay, let me just quickly read through any of the questions that I had for you, because we might have even covered it all. Oh, I think we've covered it all and more, I think, Alex. It's been brilliant talking to you. If you want to connect with Alex at all, for anything, I'm assuming advice, and obviously for any kind of client issue, whether you'd like to book in with him, can you do anything existentially? Because some of our viewers are obviously abroad. This is going out live on the web. So would people be able to contact you from abroad as well, Alex?
Absolutely, yes. You can go on my website, alexanderwalkerch.com. The appointments are there. You can email me or book an appointment. Free consultation. You can do it over the phone or in person if you're abroad, by email or message. We do webcam therapy. It's confidential. We only do it for certain issues though, so because we need to make sure you're safe. You're in a safe environment. There's a good, strong connection. Okay.
Yeah.
So we just need to work out those issues for any of those clients wanting to do that.
Yeah.
It's available for those abroad.
Fabulous. Oh, it's been brilliant talking to you.
Lovely
I'm buzzing just off of all the information and talking and everything like that. I hope our viewers have enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for joining me. So this time next week, you'll be back just with me, I'm afraid, people. We'll miss the guest. So join in for me next Wednesday from 9 until 11 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us. From me and Alex, good night.
Humanity has been on an epic journey of discovery, learning the truth about the world we live in. New discoveries about the true origins of humanity, ancient history, free energy, as well as the systematic corruption of world governments are now on the forefront of our daily reality. Is the world headed towards destruction based on control and power? Or is an opportunity now being presented to shift and uplift into a higher consciousness? My name is Mel V, co-founder and creative director of Conscious Consumer Network, an independent broadcast network that was launched on the 1st of January 2015. In the last 3 years, Conscious Consumer Network has broadcast over 2,800 shows in multiple languages, featuring guests from across the world, whilst creating media that is aimed at the creation of a free, fair, peaceful, just, sustainable world. Conscious Consumer Network provides full training and an interactive support network for all broadcasters, and we are always looking for inspiring and educational content.
Hi, this is Lady Liberty.
And this is Mira Siegel.
In 2018, Conscious Consumer Network has expanded to multiple broadcast locations, increasing our availability and reach across the world, remaining on the cutting edge of independent media. If we wish to create a better world, we must first create better media, geared towards real education instead of indoctrination.
You guys really are what changing the world is going to be about. It's educating kids at a grassroots level.
Having become a pillar of stability in the turbulent world of independent media, we have even more going on in 2018. Conscious Consumer Network is a publicly funded network, and we rely on all of you to keep us on the air. Show your support for independent media by donating to our 2018 Network Support Fund. Dare to seek a better world. Support independent media.